I think we have to take into consideration this isn't just a Caterpillar company that fell out of the sky and they called it a Caterpillar all at once. It was about two strong-willed engineers that began to have to work on something that would get the farm work done and to get the plowing done and everything that had to be done. So these two men, one of them is Daniel Best, the other one was Benjamin Holt, and they both got together in separate buildings in Stockton, and they started building some kind of a tractor. So the first tractors didn't even look like tractors. They were just a bunch of iron put together and some wheels on it, and that's it. But as they went along, Mr. Best and Mr. Holt began to become competition with each other with ideas, and so they decided to stay away from each other and go ahead and build what they could. So that was the beginning of the Caterpillar, and at that time it wasn't called Caterpillar, it was called a Best or a Holt, whichever one that happened to be there. So this company started out as the Best and the Holt people in two separate sheds in Stockton. And as time went on, in a few days and a few hours, they did successfully build a couple of tractors that acted like they could be a tractor. They worked around and looked like a tractor and everything. So one was a Holt and one was a Best. But after that company had operated a little bit, they decided that the name ought to be patented. So the Holt people hurried up and patented the name Caterpillar back in 1907. So from then on, when we say Caterpillar, we have to be sure whether we're talking about Best or Holt, because they were two different companies. And so about then, both of them got their tractors on the market, and one of them is right here that I stand in front of. Is a 45 Holt, and it's the second one put together back in Minneapolis, where Caterpillar started out building tractors. And so with the Best side of that picture, the Best tractor is here in this lineup of tractors, but a little farther over in the museum. But it still had the best ideas, and he had to get some better ideas, that different parts of it that worked that Holt had the patents on already. So Holt made Best pay him a royalty for the first few tractors that were built, and that was when that Best tractor broke away from Holt and tried to overcome the patents that Holt actually held over Best. At this time, I did say there was two companies, and I did say that one was possibly stronger than the other a little bit. And so it eventually happened that there was arrangements made by Mr. Best's father to loan Mr. Best to the Holt factory, because the Holt was going to buy a bunch of Best controlling stock. And so Mr. Best was going to take his Best son for 1 year to make sure that this tractor was assembled and put together right that they were working on. So we'll say the first few Holts and Bests were built with the okay from Best and the okay from Holt, of course, because it was on their property and everything. So Best only stayed with that for his year that he agreed to. Then he broke away from that group and started his own tractor. His own tractor wasn't a steam engine, it was a gas-driven tractor. And the gas-driven tractors were getting in the East Coast pretty fast for small farms, so they knew all they need to do is make it bigger to get it out here and suit these farmers out in the West Coast. So at that time, young Best was building his own tractor, but it was a wheel tractor instead of a track layer. Now, this story we're talking about now is all of Caterpillar, whether it had wheels or tracks. And anyway, at this time, Best is managing to put together the wheel engine and hoping he could put tracks on it, because that seemed to be the biggest demand right now, was to get a tractor to work the muddy marshes around Stockton and rich land that had to be farmed. So Best started to work on making tractors that would go out through that mud. He was successful at that, and Holt could see that, and Holt moved in alongside of Best at the same challenge, trying to make a tractor that would please all the people. So up till this time, we're talking about, well, Holt and Best were trying to put something together for each other that they could live with. And so now, at this part of my story, they have to begin to talk about what tractors were they. Well, I just said a while ago, the one behind me is the oldest Holt that we have around. And the little oldest Best is Humpback. It's the same type of a track drive that they have today in the brand new Caterpillars. And now we've got over to the Best side, and we've got the oldest Best that we have here. And it's a 1913 Best put together by Mr. Best. And it was very successful in orchards and vineyards and small ranches, but it wasn't big enough to go out in the big farms and do the hard work. So